What's up, everybody? Hello. Happy weekend. All right. I'm going to wait a few seconds, people to hop on, find this link. I shared it out, but for whatever reason, this link is not populating well when I share it. So I just want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to get on and watch this live, because I get requests for, when are you going to go live? And I don't ever give a time, by the way, on purpose, because my life is not so structured at the moment that I can give a specific time of when I'm going to be on. I know that that's helpful and it's a lot better when it comes to bringing people onto the live video, but I'm just not in a place where I can do that right now. So hopefully I can at some point, but thanks for just hanging with me for now and rolling with me when I make the announcements on social media that I'm going to go live. So if this is your first time hopping on, welcome to the Fireside Chats. My name is Shakti, and I am apparently an unofficial informant for what's happening in the world right now. I just gave myself that job, and here I am. So what I do is now, hi, Kari. I take notes from what I read in the Epic Times, from what I see on YouTube from independent journalists and reporters who are all kind of collecting the same information, trying to collect the same information. And I'm compiling information that is on purpose, not biased information. I'm not interested in having a party conversation. This is a Democratic thing versus a liberal thing. This is not what I want to do. The intention of this is to make sure you guys are receiving media that's going to inform you and going to empower you, and that is not going to be skewed and give you just like a clickbait title so that you can just go follow a video or read an article for those reasons. Okay. So that being said, I always like to start off with things that I hear that are interesting to me from the presidential briefings from the day before. So the president, if you don't know, goes live every single day at 6 p.m. EST. And you should find the live streaming of that. I think it's very important that you are an informed citizen and that you get to listen directly to the people that speak when these briefings happen. It's not just the president, it's the attorney general, it's the education, it's the head of the CDC, it's a bunch of people speak during these briefings. Given their level of expertise, depending on what they're going to cover that day, they bring them on. And it's very important that you listen to the information directly from the horse's mouth for a lot of reasons. Mainly because if you depend on hearing it afterwards from the media, you are going to get a messed up version of what actually happened. So listen to it directly and pay attention to the things that get said very quickly and in passing, because a lot of information gets said in a very little amount of time. And if you're not paying attention, you will miss it. So please say hi if you're hopping on. I see that the numbers of people are going up. So say hi. Tell me where you're watching from. Give me your name if your username doesn't say your name so that I can say hi to you. Okay, so the briefing yesterday opened up with Trump saying that he had to enforce, hey, what's up? This executive order to make General Motors provide materials as they had promised or as had expected. Oh, hey, what's up, Mom? Welcome. And I thought that was interesting. That was like the first words out of his mouth. Like, yeah, we exercise this power. Because up until now, he's like, no, we really haven't had to force anybody to do anything. It's, everybody's been really cooperative, except now General Motors decided to sit on their hands. And the president was like, no, thanks. What I find really interesting about that I wrote in my notes later. So I'm gonna jump around because these are not organized notes. Is that when you think about being in a pandemic, and you think about what the media has been doing specifically, very skillfully, has been drumming up the narrative of fear, overwhelm, like hospitals are overwhelmed, people are overwhelmed, like this sensation of overwhelm and lack. We don't have enough this. There's not enough toilet paper. There's not enough ventilators. There's not enough masks. So there's been a very heavy emphasis on fear, death, overwhelm, and lack. which is like the magical soup recipe for making everybody lose their goddamn minds and want to jump off a deep end. Okay? They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing with those words. They know what they're doing with the images they're showing you. They know what they're doing. They are creating trauma. And this is not different. This is a bold claim, but it's not different than the Nazi Party understanding psychology such that if you tell a group of people a lie long enough, they will believe it 100%. They will buy into it with their psychology, which is how he got everybody to buy into him. Okay? This is not different. This is not different. And here's what I find really suspicious. As soon as Attorney General Barr made this announcement, it was like 2 days ago, that there was now basically a hoarding law in place that any person or persons found hoarding what's considered an essential material, essential to or ventilators or anything, would be charged with a crime, a felony. Okay, he made this announcement a few days ago. They would be punishable by law if they were caught. They were going to receive a knock on their door, was his exact words. The very next day, Amazon and Apple find millions of masks just magically hiding in their warehouses. Things they don't even use for their jobs. On top of that, some random church discovered like 10,000 masks in a crypt. Like, we didn't know that was there. Been there like 10 years. Like, literally said that. Okay. And in New York, they found a warehouse with 1,000 ventilators just sitting there. So weird. It's like they just showed up. We didn't even know they were there this whole time. So this is another example of how this fear of lack has been very intentional. You guys, do not be fooled. Do not be fooled by that. The moment that he pretty much said that you were going to be charged with a crime if you were caught doing this, everybody was like, oh, weird surprise, here this is. They had to threaten them with legal action, literally, to get them to cough up what they had. That's not cool, especially when there's a true medical emergency, which I still have a big question mark about. But if there is, why would you be doing that? What's the agenda? That seems odd. Abby, yeah, wow. That's what I said when I read it. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Okay, so there's that. Just understand how this works, okay? Trump also made a statement that I found really interesting. He said, we're getting rid of certain barriers that are slowing us down. And most people will hear that statement and think, oh, it's barriers to, like, I don't know, medicine, like getting rid of this virus. But I didn't hear that when I heard that. I literally heard when he said that he is going to restructure this government from the ground up. And if you guys, my next announcement is going to pop you off in the title of this video, and it is a big deal. He has been committed to restructuring this country from the ground up since he came into office, but no one really saw that. I mean, maybe some of his supporters did. Again, I was not one of those people. A lot of his supporters did see this. A lot of his supporters saw his intention to restructure this country. When he talked about making America great again, they understood what he was talking about. I didn't see that. Most of the people around me didn't see that because I was still in a very different mindset. I was still believing the media was actually reporting news. But he is committed to that. He has been committed to that from the beginning. And he is beginning to show us what that means. And I'll get to that in a second. And to his credit, he made this statement yesterday. He said, a lot of the media has actually been quite fair in reporting this, and I'm not used to this. He said, usually media is very off, but lately they've been pretty fair. And I draw attention to the statement and the same way I've drawn attention to his previous statements about talking about Democrats and Republicans working together, because he's not an unfair guy. I really want you to see that. Like, he's not being unfair. He's giving credit where credit is due. And so far, I haven't caught him tripping up on that once. And I think that's really important because for those of us who were brainwashed to believe that he didn't give an F and he was like inconsiderate of other people, proves the complete opposite of that. He makes a point to give credit where credit is due. And he even said, he's like, it's not entirely Obama's fault that I got this country the way it was. It's not entirely, blah, blah, blah's fault that this is happening. Like, this has been going on forever. He calls out the entire lineage of why the country is where it is or why the holes are where they are. So I find that that's really an important point when you're listening to the leader of your country, that they're not quick to scapegoat leadership, but they are saying this is a much bigger problem than just saying that person messed up this whole country, right? Another reason I say watch his briefings is because a lot of times, like the media, this just happened today, the media wrote an article talking about how he made this statement yesterday about wanting to be appreciated. He wanted people to be appreciative. And the only thing the journalist took was that one sentence. He's like, I just want people to be appreciative. And then, of course, she bashed him for whatever she decided would be appropriate for her to bash him. And then someone responded to her on Twitter saying, why don't you use the whole freaking quote, you scam artist, basically. And what he said in the quote was actually, because when they don't appreciate my efforts, this is out of his mouth, they don't appreciate the people who are working tireless hours, like he mentioned the hospitals, he mentioned the medical experts, he mentioned everybody else in government, he mentioned Mike Pence, he mentioned Attorney General, DOJ. He gave credit to all of them. He's like, when you don't appreciate what's being done, you don't appreciate any of these people's efforts, which they are working overtime day and night right now. I thought that was a really powerful statement. And to see someone who is quote unquote a journalist make it like slaughter the quote basically, and then drive it for an agenda made my blood boil. And that happens every day. You should know that, by the way. Maybe I'll make a whole video on all the way the media has screwed us over on beliefs about him. That might be interesting. Okay. The other thing I noticed a lot of during the briefing was literally some guy was sitting in his chair like, kids are at home and they're like upset because they're at home and they're just like climbing up the walls like, what do we do? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you do, dude? This is a national emergency. Stay in your damn house and stop being so whiny. Like, none of us can control this. Like, I thought that was such a dumb question. But he did ask the president, like, how would you address the children? And I thought he said that he did an amazing job addressing them, talking about how we live in the greatest country. He told him, like, we live in the greatest country and we're doing our best to handle this. This is a big deal. Nothing like this, he mentioned, nothing like this has happened since 1917. And what's really interesting about that date, I haven't dug into this, but what's interesting about that date was that was shortly after the Federal Reserve came like full blast power into this country. And we started shifting out of being gold backed to being fiat system, if I'm not mistaken. It was 1913, 15, 1917. And I'm sure most people will read that date and be like, well, this plague was happening or this thing was happening. But in my head, I immediately thought of that event, that historical event. And I found it really interesting that he chose that date in particular. But anyways, we'll get to that in a second. You should watch that bit though. I thought that was pretty powerful. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the WHO real quick, because everybody thinks the World Health Organization is like legit. No. Let's just start there. Maybe do a little bit of research about who funds the World Health Organization. I mean, I could tell you the name. Starts with a B, ends with a G. Figure it out. Who funds the World Health Organization and who is even behind BG? Okay. Yeah, privately owned. Thank you. Okay. Who has the biggest vaccine agenda on the planet right now? Who is just like, oh, you've got this problem. I have the solution with no medical background. Here you are. Who is that guy? Yeah, that guy. Okay. Funds this organization. They straight up said that they think that we should be careful with the medications we are giving for COVID. Listen to this. Listen how this makes no sense and why you should be paying attention. We should thoroughly test the medication and prove that it does what we think it does. these are the same people who want to, let's just skip all of the vaccine testing. Huh? What? So you want to thoroughly test a drug that's been in use for 20 years, but you want to rapid track a vaccine that's never been used, skip all of the testing, and give it to people. You gotta be out of your mind. Literally. Crazy. Crazy. Ooh, so Jenny's sharing the title to a docuseries, I think you said, Dirty Money, on gold. And Teddy Roosevelt made us gold back by taking everyone's gold at less in value than once the government owned all the gold, doubled its value. So hold that thought for just a second, because we're going to get there in a second. So right about that time was the last time we were really gold backed, by the way. Like if you go back in history, the 1939 window was the last time that we were like actually gold backed. And then we switched really intensely into this petrodollar. That's like magic money. But think about that World Health Organization statement real quick. Like think about how you see all these, like all of a sudden they want to shut down the use of this drug for this, okay? Claiming that, well, the other people need it for other things. Well, duh, make more, because we can do that. And we need more testing for it. But we are going to rapid fast track this weird other thing that we don't know. No, that makes no sense. Pay attention. There's an agenda. There's an agenda there. And I think we need to keep our eyes real wide open. Because here's where it gets even saucier. So Dr. Fauci has been coming on these briefings and he's talking about, like, he's the expert right now. He's the expert on what's going on with this crisis. But if you do a little bit of digging on Dr. Fauci, it gets real interesting, because he shows up in these quote unquote missing emails, HRC emails. He's in there, okay? He is affiliated with two organizations that should make your ears perk: the WHO, which we just talked about, and the Clinton Foundation. Interesting. Okay. So apparently he also spent a lot of time in Ethiopia during the HIV crisis doing work through the CF Foundation, where then millions of dollars went missing and nobody knows what happened to them. We don't know. We don't know. So if you don't know anything about the CF Foundation, do a little bit of research, do a little bit of digging, see what you find, because it's very interesting. There's been a lot of hullabaloo about it and how it's literally been front for laundering and trafficking and a lot of other things that do not make it look very good. And just the fact that this dude is affiliated with them makes me go, okay. I'm not saying anything about him. I'm saying I find those connections to be real interesting. You can do your own research. Okay. Since we're on that, I'm saving the best for last. You see how I'm just going to save the best for last. Since we're on the HRC tip, I recently learned that she, not too long ago, was asked to give an in-person deposition for new evidence that showed up about the whole laptop situation. So if you don't know anything about HRC and the missing emails, the famous missing emails, well, her assistant, her right-hand person, Huma Abedin, her ex-husband was indicted for trying to sext a minor. He got arrested. He got property taken from him. One of those things was a laptop. Inside of that laptop, lots of emails and video files were found that related to HRC and were very unfavorable. Okay, that laptop is still in possession. It is still in the background right now. That card has not even been played. You guys has not even been played. I can't even imagine when that card gets played. I don't even know what's going to happen. But anyways, she has been asked to she's tried to give a deposition in writing. She's been avoiding going in person and giving a deposition. Finally, the judge was like, no, you have to come in person. You have to give a deposition. Well, now she's asking for a motion She cleared an emergency motion to actually avoid going in person and giving a deposition. I imagine, because if she talks, she's screwed. And if she doesn't talk, she's screwed. Like, either way, she's backed into a corner right now. It is not looking good for this person right now. Yeah. And this evidence just came out like so the evidence that just arose, which gave, I think, more motion to getting the deposition, was that the FBI actually protected her for like a month during her presidential campaign so that this didn't, so that she wouldn't have to like give a deposition or speak on it or address it. Like, they pretty much hid her from facing trial. Can't do that. So that just came out. That came out. So that's going to be real interesting to see what happens there. Interesting. Okay. Also, something I've noticed, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the Democratic candidates on Twitter, in the stimulus bill that we just passed, in Twitter posts and comments, have been nonstop, even the email. I got a moveon.org email, which is a Democratic organization, liberal organization. They have been talking nonstop about voting from home, like all of them. We need to pass a motion to vote from home. In fact, what was hidden inside the stimulus bill that Pelosi returned was this motion so that people could vote from home. They're like, well, because pandemic and vote from home. And in my head, I'm like, it is March, dudes. March. We vote in November. Why are y'all talking about this? Why is this so important? Why is this taking so much precedence on your mind that you are talking about this? Calm down. That makes me even more suspicious than all of this was a huge play to ruin an election for that guy. All of this was a huge scandal just to ruin the election for a guy they don't like. A guy that is systematically taking people down and doing it with style, frankly. It just seems weird that instead of focusing on how can we get behind helping this pandemic or advancing information or keeping our community informed, we are talking about voting from home. Literally, like, you vote and then someone takes your vote somewhere. Do you guys not see how many problems there are with that offering? Like, that's not safe. That is not secure. We're already having issues with voting. You want more issues with voting? That seems crazy. Yes, Abby. Yeah, like, that's crazy. Just crazy. But I just couldn't shake the feeling that them talking about this right now was so telling of where their minds are and what's actually at the forefront of their concern. What do I think personally? I think personally that they are trying to avoid Trump turning this whole situation around. They are freaking out because if this dude manages to turn this ship around and save this entire country in more than one way, he will be in office for as long as he wants to be in office. And everybody else is like, no, don't do that. They don't want him there. If you haven't figured that out, they don't want him there. He is a problem for them. And they're terrified that he's going to fix a lot of things. They're scared right now. Scared. And I'm going to tell you why they should be scared. I'm going to wrap up with this, because this is my favorite piece of all of this. So I haven't dug a lot into like terminology, but I'm going to turn it over to you and I'm going to ask you to do your research, as I always do, so that you can learn that the way I'm learning about the banking system in this country and when it went from being a nationalized bank, meaning in our country, owned by our country, run by our country exclusively, to being a centralized bank, which is what the Federal Reserve was. I said it was. Meaning owned, and meaning our money was not our money. It was fake money. It was oil-backed money. It stopped having value. This is why we have been saying for a long time, for 10 years, inflation has been going up, but we are not earning more, right? Have you guys noticed that? How is it that the price of everything seems to be going up, but we're not getting paid more? Really, it's just the value of our dollar means nothing. It's an empty dollar. Okay. So most people don't know the Federal Reserve is a private company. It wasn't part of the government, right? The IRS was created so that you could give money to the Federal Reserve. You pay them. Your income taxes, pay them. It was illegal. Income taxes are illegal, by the way, in case you didn't know that. Except they threaten you with jail time, and the government of this country was letting them do that. They were letting them coerce you to pay a private centralized bank. That's what was going on. Not no mo. As of yesterday, the Federal Reserve, literally, the president made the Federal Reserve bankrupt themselves. Absorb all of the debt, all the toxic assets, bankrupt themselves, and then get absorbed by the Treasury, which is a part of the government, by the way. The Treasury is part of the executive branch. So the Treasury now basically oversees the Federal Reserve. The Treasury now has the power again to control our money and the production of our money, which is where that should have stayed. Okay, and the Federal Reserve is now, from what I understand, acting as a private bank for the Treasury, but they no longer call the shots. Doesn't exist anymore. Okay, it's been completely restructured, and you will soon hear that income tax is going to follow. Mark my words. I 100% believe that's going to disappear. 100% believe it. The other thing I find really interesting, and the reason I think that the income tax is going to disappear and that we're going to see some big changes in how our money operates, and I think our dollar is going to have so much value that we're going to see sort of like going back in time where you could buy a lot more for the dollar that you can buy now. Do you remember student loans, right? The student loans, at first it was, oh, we're going to suspend the interest. And then it was, oh, okay, you can apply for forbearance and you don't have to pay for 60 days. Well, the Secretary of Education yesterday said that that has now been extended to 6 months. You literally do not have to make a payment on your student loans for 6 months. That is unprecedented, unheard of, radical. And I'm here to tell you, they've only extended it to 6 months because it's going to disappear. Like, now more than ever, I had this thought in my head, like, I bet student loans are going to disappear. They're going to be absorbed by either the Federal Reserve or someone's going to absorb this loss, because a lot of it was given unfairly. And I think is structured unfairly. Just the interest is crazy on these loans, okay? So as soon as I heard her push it back to 6 months, I was like, might as well be dead. And I have had people show me screenshots of their debts disappearing, okay? So check your debts daily. Like, all of your credit card debt, student loan debt, check it daily, because I've literally seen screenshots of people like having it just disappear recently, okay? I already have mine on forbearance. It automatically pushed it to 60 days, but she is now saying 6 months. It's not an automatic thing. You have to apply for the forbearance. I said this in a previous video. I'm going to say it again. So make sure you go to your student loan provider. You apply for a forbearance. They approved me in less than 24 hours. You don't even have to give them, just put like economic hardship, and they automatically tag it as because of COVID. And that gives you the extension that they are saying. But the moment that I heard that announcement, I was like, it's going down, because I'm like, if they're doing that to the student loans, the reason you're getting 6 months is to buy the time to change the way that our financial world functions in this country, to change the relation, to give the Treasury back the power to print money and have it be gold backed, which was always the intention of his. What? Kari said her student loans disappeared about 2 months ago. You guys, you have proof right there. Mine are still in existence. I don't know why. There's only like 10K left of it, but I can't wait for that moment. I will report it. Trust me, I will. See, hers showed paid off. So the same thing happened to the few people who send me screenshots, is it shows it as being entirely paid off when they didn't actually pay it off. So keep checking, because it's happening. And I am going to make the proclamation that I believe income tax will be abolished. I believe that student loans will be abolished. And I believe that some of our credit card debt will also appear because of the same reason. I don't have anything to back that up. I'm just saying that's what I believe, seeing what I'm seeing. I've said this for a while, and now that the Federal Reserve has been restructured, which is something I was also following, and it's something that the Q had predicted, the QAnons had predicted. And I just want to make a clarifying statement on that. I don't hardcore follow Q. I just discovered them like 2 weeks ago. So what I know is like very, very limited, but I find it fascinating. I find it very interesting and very deep. And so far, a lot of what they have been saying is happening. And so I'm just very curious about that, and I'm following it closely. But my intention when I come here and report is that I'm reporting to you things that are actually coming out in the news, things that are actually happening. Department of Justice said, or the Attorney General said, or the President said. That's what I'm reporting to you guys. And then if I have a theory that I find interesting, I'll throw the theory in here and I'll let you guys explore it. But that's pretty much it. Now, the other thing I want to say is always in the bottom of these videos, I include links to things. Now, on the bottom of this video, I'm going to include some links to things I did not talk about in this video. And they might be real hard for some people to listen to, so I'm just warning you ahead of time. But some of the links that I'm about to drop on the bottom of this video refer to my earlier videos where I talked about this whole idea that what's happening now is a massive takedown of deep state or the cabal. And you guys remember Tila Tequila? We didn't know what happened to her. She like showed up. She was a phenomenon on TV, and then she just like dipped out and nobody ever heard from her evermore. There's a really strange voice recording of her, and it pretty much flat out says everything that has been suspected of the cabal and what's been going on in the elite and the world of the elite in this country and globally. She talks about it in this clip, and it's really raw and it's really strange. And I'm putting it there for information for you guys to listen to and have more backing for this concept and this theory. I'm also going to include 3 links to a new docuseries that was created by the same journalist who created Fall Cabal. Many of you have probably watched that by now. She created a 3-part series on COVID, and I think it presents the storylines. There's 10 different storylines happening with this right now very, very well. And it's worth watching. It's worth getting all the information you possibly can. So I'm going to put those links in the bottom of this video as well. And again, it belongs to the newspaper. And I'm going to close up. This one's going to be a little bit longer with someone of the Spanish royal family recently passed away. She was hardcore socialist, which as soon as I hear that word, I hear communism, because those things exist like this. That's just a fact. And she just died. It's weird. She died of COVID. The royal families have been having a real hard time with COVID. If you haven't noticed, it's real strange. It's real strange. You should track that, by the way. It's really interesting. So that's it. My biggest news was about the Fed. So I think this is really interesting. I think that we should track this really closely. And again, please make sure that you're watching the briefings. Find someone that is airing them on YouTube and watch them live. Take some notes, bring them to these conversations, ask me questions. I'm happy to talk about them. So I am signing off. As always, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I love you guys. See you next time.